In nature, beauty comes easy. It presents itself with a dazzling array of shapes and colors. Here in Florida, we have had the foresight to set aside forever wild areas, to renew our spirits and fill our souls with wonder. However, some politicians have a unique definition of forever. This is the Florida Field Journal. Most people associate Florida with alligators, and they are the state reptile. One of our great universities has the gator as their mascot. Seeing these animals in the wild, it is easy to forget that they were almost wiped out due to hunting. In 1967, they were placed on the endangered species list. Fortunately, there were enough areas with protected freshwater habitat for them to recover. This reptile's ancestors belonged to a group called archosaurs, which included dinosaurs and eventually birds. Birds. Lots of birds. We have 510 species on the Florida bird checklist. That list could have been much shorter had not an enlightened Florida legislature, encouraged by the fledgling Audubon Society, outlawed plume hunting in 1901. Up until that time, millions of birds were slaughtered for their feathers in the name of fashion. Hats adorned with feathers and even whole stuffed birds were a mark of status. Poaching for feathers continued for many years, but eventually the outrage over the killing of millions of birds stifled the demand. Of course, fickle fashion has shifted as well. great egrets, snowy egrets, rosette spoonbills, and many other species were almost wiped out. In many of our public parks and preserves, the wildlife feels safe enough to be seen. They haven't been spooked by gunfire or fireworks or heavy construction. People can see deer, wild turkey, eagles, and a host of other critters that would never walk down Main Street. But these lands are not just about individual species. They're about ecosystems that reflect the heritage of Florida.
My name is Frank Jackalone. I'm the Florida Staff Director of the Sierra Club. We are here on a very sad day today, a day when the Florida Wildlife Commission is going into unprecedented ground. People I've talked to have said they are rolling the clock back by 100 years to a point when it was acceptable to shoot black bears and panthers. It is unimaginable to us that they would roll back the rules that protect these endangered species that most Floridians love. We have Jono Miller, and Jono is J-O-N-O, the most difficult name here. Jono Miller, who's an environmental activist in Sarasota, a long-time environmental leader in Sarasota, who has founded a petition drive to stop the proposal to allow for cattle grazing and other purposes on thousands of acres at Myakka River State Park.
What's going on here today?
Well, this is a press conference that covers a multitude of different issues. Some people are here because of the Florida panther. Some people are here because of Florida black bear. Some people are here because of a broad change in policy to commercialize their parks. And some people are here specifically about the proposal to put cows in Myakka River State Park.
It sounds like the state is under threat more than it's ever been since I've been.
Yeah, if you look at what's happened with Amendment 1 and the reducing the protections for some of our large animals, the panthers and the bears, and then this issue with opening up the parks to commercialization, it seems like a broad attack on our natural resources.
Well, then, of course, if the parks fail, they can sell them off to develop.
Well, there's plenty of phosphate under Myakka River State Park, so I'm sure that's always a plan B.
Yeah. All right, what is your role?
Well, I'm going to be speaking specifically about this issue of the changing mission of the Florida State Parks and the particular situation we have out at Myakka.
Now, here in Sarasota County, they're also trying to do the same thing with the county park.
Yes, they are. They're trying to sort of a giveaway of 2 sections of environmentally sensitive lands and maybe introduce hunting on land that was acquired with environmentally sensitive land dollars. That's another issue.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
shocked and dismayed that the Florida Wildlife Commission is backing off decades of protection for the Florida panther. At the same time, they're looking to open hunting on the Florida black bear after 20 years of protections. You know, the lack of support for these large land mammals, the assault on our lands in Florida by opening them up for trapping, hunting, logging, everything is just overall an assault on wildlife and our wild lands in Florida. There's no other way to put it. This commission is taking us backwards, and we are truly appalled and upset. The Panther program came out of nowhere. They're backpedaling on it. Decades of work and millions of dollars, and we are just appalled. I will be speaking again against black bear hunting. We've had a major campaign on that. That is not necessary. The bear in the woods have nothing to do with the bears that are creating a nuisance in neighborhoods. We need to deal with that. Overall, this is an assault on Florida wildlife and wild lands, and we need to stop it.
Florida has a higher percentage of people living in urban areas than even New York State. For them, natural areas provide an aesthetic and therapeutic sanctuary. For our children, these areas offer first-hand educational experiences. They serve a vital function in protecting the aquifers that serve the personal and agricultural needs of the people of this state. Unfortunately, there are those who put a price tag on everything.
Two people I need to talk about. One is a gentleman who has a 39% approval rating. That would be our governor. The other is a gentleman, the interim secretary of DEP. He's been on the job for less than 6 months. Now, these two people are attempting to change the basic mission of Florida State Parks. Florida State Parks exist for conservation and recreation, but they're introducing a new concept, the concept of multiple use. Multiple use can mean a number of things. It could mean collecting saw palmetto berries. It could mean digging up alligator nests to sell the eggs. But it could mean a lot more. It could mean cell phone towers in our state parks. It could mean well fields in our state parks. It could mean hunting in our state parks. It could mean forestry in our state parks. And it could mean cows in our state parks. We have yet to find a single man or a single woman or even a married man or a married woman who will come forward and say it was my idea. It was my idea to put cows in Mayaca River State Park. We can't find that person. But what we can find are other people that are willing to speak up. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about 3 former directors of the Florida Park Service with a total of 38 years of service. They say this is a bad idea and it's wrong. 26 former managers of individual state parks, including the former manager of Mayaca River State Park, say this is wrong. The former director of planning for our state park says this is wrong. The former biologist for the state park system says it's wrong, and the former biologist for Mayaca River State Park says this is wrong. So it's a bad idea. These people say it's wrong, and I know what you're thinking. Jono, why is it a bad idea? Let me tell you about this. The area they want to put these cows in is a globally imperiled habitat. It's Florida dry prairie. There was never very much of it on the planet. There was never very much of it in the state. Most of it has been cleared. There are only a few places in the state where people can see this habitat. 95% of the area where they want to put these cows is this habitat. The other 5% used to be pasture. I say used to be pasture because it's no longer pasture. It's been abandoned for 17 years. So that's why it's a bad idea. There's no fencing. There are no water holes. There's no cross fencing. There's no loading facilities. There's no corrals. It is not set up for cattle.
These areas are not businesses to be run for profit. They are not amusement parks, feed or timber lots, phosphate mines, or hunting leases.
We are seeing an all-out assault by the state of Florida on wildlife, on our state parks, and on the tradition and history of the state of Florida to be a leader in wildlife protection and in fine public parks. This is very, very disturbing, and it's irresponsible by state leaders.
The voters at the county and state level have sent an unmistakable message. These areas are important enough that we will pay to support them and expand them. Unlimited growth and development is not sustainable, and it threatens these wild areas that are the heart of Florida. I hope that in 10 years we don't look back and say, you know, not long ago.
In these parts, along this road, at a time not long ago, a river named Mayaka flowed. In these parts, not long ago. In these parts were stands of wood and mirror pools where egrets stood and hingas watched with wings outspread. In these parts, or so I've read. In these parts, a marsh once gave to flocks from near and far away, a resting place to spend the night. In these parts, on autumn flights. The glossy ibis join the farm. Wood storks and herons, blue and night. Sandhills and spoonbills, hawks and kites. These words they sang were magic sights. In these parts the swallowtails knew every patch where wildflowers grew. Eagles and gators, or so I'm told, were in these parts not long ago. In these parts along this road, at a time not long ago, a river named Mayaka flowed. In these parts not long ago.